We're going to talk a lot about job creation. That is the number one issue, I think, in Mississippi right now. We did a lot of polling in the election cycle, and it seems to be the number one issue on everyone's mind. I know MEC is the economic driver of the state's Chamber of Commerce. Jobs creation, economic prosperity are all things that are important to them. So I held a summit last April on workforce development, and I held another summit in December on what we call brain drain, the youngest and the brightest and the best leaving our state. So we want to keep them, we want to attract others to come to Mississippi. So those are two of the things we're going to address in the session, and that will be my message to them. Is that we realize that is a very important issue. We're going to try to tackle it. As you know, we just came off of an election year. All of us ran for re-election. I ran for re-election. I've been in the House for 16 years now, and I had to run for re-election this year. So I was speaking to an elderly women's club in Clinton, and this lady introduced me, just like Scott did, went through my bio, and she concluded by saying, "Now look, we all need to get out and vote for Philip because the guy we got in there now is no good at all." And I said, "Yeah, I agree. I know him, and he's a sorry joker. You need to vote for me." The Lord always works to keep us humble. I gave a speech in North Mississippi at Good Old Boys event. Many of you may be familiar with Good Old Boys. It's a picnic out in the woods. But I was the last speaker, like I am today. And when I finished, they said the blessing for the meal. So when I opened up my eyes, I look and the entire crowd is moving toward me. And I'm thinking, boy, I must have given a good speech. They want to come shake my hand. And as they got to me, they just kept going past me. And so I turned around and looked, and I happened to be standing in front of the beer coolers. So they were all going there to get themselves a beer. So my speech didn't meet with much success that day either. It's great to be with you. Welcome to the Capitol. Glad to have you here. I was asked to give you a legislative update. So we've been on the job for 2 days. Let me tell you what we've done over the last 2 days. And many of you may have paid attention to the swearing in that we had in the House on Tuesday and in the Senate. We got all of our new members and old members sworn in, so we have a legislative body. Today we are going to swear in our statewide office holders. It begins at 2 o'clock in the House chamber if any of you would like to come or watch it over the internet. And then Tuesday we will swear in the governor. So there's a lot of pomp and circumstance over the first few days. I was privileged to name a couple of committees yesterday. Some of you may remember last year we did a teacher pay raise, and that's always something that we're focused on looking at. It's purely a function of money. Just to give you some perspective, by the way, a $1,000 pay raise across the board, all the teachers, injects about $75 million into our budget. That's not a one-time expense either, ladies and gentlemen. So I don't think any of us are paying teachers what we think they're worth. The teachers are worth far more than we could ever pay them. But when you choose to do that, you got to realize you're injecting a new $75 million into that budget, and you got to make sure you got the money to do it. Well, over the years, the superintendents have been telling us you're not funding all the teachers, and we're like, well, sure we are. And last year, Richard Bennett, my chairman of education, decided to chase down that allegation and determine, is that true or is it not? And what we learned is that the Department of Ed wasn't counting all the teachers. They weren't including some of the gifted teachers and the career technical teachers and others. So when we were given a pay raise, the number we had was wrong. And at the end of the session last year, we learned that we're about $18 million short. So we promised then we will make it right. It was our intent to give every teacher a pay raise, and if that's what it takes, we're going to do it. In order to do that, we promised we would do it in short order in the session. As soon as the session starts in January, we're going to take care of that. So in order to do that, we have to file a bill, and the bill's got to be referred to a committee. So I had to have a committee to refer it to. So the Appropriations Committee is the committee that will handle that. I formed that committee and the Ways and Means Committee yesterday. They were announced. The bill was passed out of the committee yesterday. We plan to take it up on the floor today and fulfill our promise to the teachers that we intended to give you this raise. We're going to give you this raise. So hopefully by the end of this day, Hopefully by the end of this day, that bill will be out of the House and on the way to the Senate. I've talked to the Lieutenant Governor. He agrees, and hopefully they'll take it up soon as well. And that's what we call a deficit appropriation. It's money that we're doing this year. Very privileged to select Jason White as my pro tem. He spoke earlier. You saw him. He's the best dressed legislator in the Capitol. He has proven himself to be an outstanding leader over the last 8 years. We talked about the infrastructure plan you mentioned a minute ago. He was one of the ones that came up with that idea. He has been the chairman of Rules in the House. He has handled Medicaid budgets. He has handled Medicaid issues. He is an attorney by training. He's a smart guy. He's got the trust of my House members. And when it came time to pick a pro tem, he was the obvious choice. So I'm very privileged to bring him along as my partner. Hopefully he can help keep me on the right path. The chairman I named yesterday were Trey Lamar, who is chairman of Ways and Means. Trey has been the vice chairman of that committee for quite some time. He's an attorney from Senatobia, Mississippi, and he will do an outstanding job. He has worked that committee very hard over the last 8 years. I have full confidence in him. John Reed is my chairman of Appropriations. John Reed's from Pascagoula, and he has done that job for the last 3 or 4 years and done an outstanding job. Speaking of that, I will just say that, as I mentioned, we just had elections, and we ran, as I campaigned across the state, not only for myself, but for the others. I told everybody, we're running on our record. We're not running on promises. I gave a speech at the Neshoba County Fair last summer. I'm sure many of you tuned in to watch it. But the speech was, and my campaign message was, you can take any category of government you want to talk about. Any area of government you want to talk about. Roads, education, agriculture, the budget, gun rights, you name it, and I can show you that the leadership over the last years has made improvements in every area of government. And in the speech, I went forward and listed out some of the things as examples. One of those things is the budget. We're in the best financial shape, I think, we've ever been in. We have the lowest unemployment in maybe ever. The rainy day fund is full. All state agencies are funded. We gave a teacher pay raise. We got a state employee pay raise. We gave an IHL community college pay raise. And we've got $400 million in the bank. So we're in great financial shape. I heard the governor on the radio this morning. I think for the current fiscal year, we are $168 million over budget. So the economy's doing well. It is the result, I think, of good conservative decisions. We've had to make some tough decisions over the last 8 years. Sometimes we have to make cuts. Sometimes we didn't have the money. 2016 was one of those examples where revenues just didn't come in. But rather than spending more than we have, which is a promise we've made to stay within our means and not spend more money than we got, we made the tough decisions. We tightened our belt and we got through it. And as a result of that, we now have a great financial situation in the state of Mississippi. So we're excited about what the session holds and the way, hopefully, we can do a lot of things with that. As far as agenda items moving forward, I will just touch on one thing, and maybe Jason has already touched on it. I just slipped in, so I didn't hear all of what he said. But we believe that job creation is the #1 issue in the state of Mississippi. And I'm not just saying that. In the elections, we did polls. We polled different districts. We didn't poll statewide, but for example, I had an election. So in my district, we polled. What are the issues that are important to the people in my district? We polled some of the other people around the state. And overwhelmingly, the #1 issue in those districts that we polled for the people of the state of Mississippi was jobs. So that's going to be a focus of my leadership moving forward in the next 4 years. We're going to be focused on jobs and job creation. I held a summit last April on workforce development. Many of you participated in that. MEC was an active participant in that. Searching for ways that we can create jobs. Searching for ways that we can train our people to work. Now, when I first started in the legislature 16 years ago, the #1 question for companies looking to come to Mississippi was, what kind of incentives are you going to give us? How much money are you going to give us? That has changed. Their #1 question now is, do you have an educated, trained workforce that'll work for us? If I bring my company to your state, do you have people who can do the job? So we are partnering with the community colleges. We're making a focus on workforce training to get our people the skills that they need so that they can meet the demands of the companies that are coming to Mississippi. I'll tell you kind of a funny story, I guess, with Continental Tire in Clinton. It's a German company. Now, in Germany, the culture there is you live within 5 minutes of where you work and you ride some sort of public transportation, right? So those guys come to Bolton and they didn't see public transportation. They didn't see a subway or even a taxi cab or a train. And they're thinking, and on top of that, they didn't see any people. So where are the people going to come from? Well, we explained to them that the culture in Mississippi is rednecks do not mind filling up their pickup truck and driving 30 miles to work. So we took a pin and we drew a 30-mile radius around that site and said, there are 500,000 people within a 30-mile radius of this site. And they don't mind filling up their pickups and driving here to work. And then we drew a 70-mile radius and there was over 1 million people. So they got comfortable with the fact that yes, there is a supply of people here, and that was one of the hurdles we had to overcome with them to get them to come. But the number one issue is now workforce training and educated people. So that's going to be a focus. I am introducing a bill this year. You mentioned the work keys. One of the things that arose out of that summit was to pay for high school juniors to take the work keys test. We do that already for the ACT. Many of you everybody's familiar with the ACT test. We pay for each junior to take it one time. Well, we're going to do that for the work keys test too. I think it's high time we do that. The kids who want to go into career technical field, we're going to help them do that. So those are just some of the things that are on the horizon. We are excited about the upcoming session. We've got a new crop of legislators and new leadership in the House. I'm going to name my committee chairman probably next week, next Friday. We're a little different in the House. Delbert can name his chairman anytime he wants. My members fill out a preference sheet. They get the privilege of filling out a list of where they want to serve. They have until 5 o'clock Friday to do that. So I still don't even have all the pieces of the puzzle yet to be able to put my committees together. The rules between House and Senate are just different in some respects, and that's one of those things. I think I've still got 20 people who have yet to give me their list, so I can't even put the puzzle together. They'll have all the information. But thank you for coming over here today. It's always a pleasure to see you. It's a privilege for us to greet you here at the Capitol. We hope you enjoy your experience here at the Capitol, and if my office can ever help you, we'd be glad to. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you, Speaker. We will look forward to continuing to work with you. You know, before we left the Marriott, Anthony said something, said there's a big opportunity in front of us. One of my favorite quotes is, the difference between temptation and opportunity is you always get a second shot at temptation. Let's don't miss this opportunity to really begin to focus on ways to move Mississippi forward.
Another big issue has come up with Mississippi prisons. What do you feel needs to be done?
Well, we're trying to get our hands around that right now. You know, we are kind of at the mercy of the agency heads. We are a legislature that is not full-time. And so on a yearly basis, a day-to-day basis, these individuals are in charge of running those agencies, and our decisions are only as good as the information they provide to us. The situation is something that has just come to light recently, and I know the Governor, Bryant, has been on top of it. The head of the agency has been on top of it, and they're trying to get that under control. I think they have it under control. We're going to have to look long-term at how to address those things. The Walnut Grove facility is one that has been sitting dormant. I think it's certainly one that we could use. So we'll be looking at that.
Do you have specific legislative priorities of yours?
Well, the job creation is kind of number one for us. We're going to bring forward a bill this year that addresses some ways to increase workforce and increase job creation. We are going to look at, I would like to look at tax reform, comprehensive tax reform. Those are two big items right there that are kind of on the radar screen.
Thank you. And I hadn't passed one bill yet. Campaign was long, a year, and a lot of different things happened, and we worked really hard because I wanted to work hard for you. So I was out one day, spent all day shaking hands, talking to people, and we were running our commercials. I hope you liked the commercials. We were positive. I hope you liked them. And so we were out and on the commercials, and this lady comes up to me and she said, I love your commercials. I said, well, thank you, ma'am. She said, you're doing a great job. And I thought, oh, finally, I got a vote, you know. I mean, I've been out all day, and it's hot and sweaty, and Lynn somewhere else in the state. I said, thank you so much. She said, yeah, you're the best state treasurer we've ever had. So next year, she'll say you're the best secretary of state we ever had. Whatever, I'm there. It's good to be with you, and I'll be brief as well. Appreciate Jason's remarks. We too are headed that way. I want to start by just telling you this last week, we have drags on our economy that are occurring. Sunday I was in Parchman in Unit 29, and the issues that are ongoing there, you read them in the paper. Significant economic issues. I was mostly worried about our boys that work there, our prisoners that work there, Highway Patrol that was there. Unit 29 was partially destroyed, flooded, all the bedding and everything ripped up, and 30 prisoners injured, one died. A horrific scene we started Sunday off with. Those are things that we as a society need to have in place where we figure out who we are most concerned with being incarcerated and who we want to come back into your workforce. Now we're letting 5,000 to 7,000 of those people out a year. When I was at Secretary of State's office, I did a poll that we did, several of those, and you can see them on our website, but over 60% of Mississippi businesses, that'd be you, agreed that they would hire a nonviolent felon. I don't want them to learn violence when they're incarcerated. So to put that into perspective, 5,000, over the next 4 years, 5,000 people coming out would raise the labor participation rate by 1% in Mississippi. So it's an economic issue for me. So we have that. We have community mental health. We postponed the litigation that in December. Talked with the Attorney General. It was good to help us there. It comes up February the 15th. We'll be back in the middle of that, the community health issues that go along with that. I tell you that to tell you that we have issues that we need to, as a society, to decide that we're going to devote sufficient economics to make them work better. Obviously, there's litigation involved in at least one of them, probably in another one for much longer. But all of y'all recognize the fact that we have to devote some standards. I want to say one other thing about that. I go to these job fairs. I wanted to see how we were doing. I went to one at Whitfield. The mental hospital had one of the booths up there, and they had sheets out they were trying to hire employees to come to work for them. So I picked up one of the sheets. It was titled Environmentalist 1. That's the person that cleans up at Whitfield, and that's not necessarily, some of those individuals are not necessarily the most sanitary conditions. Cleans up, does the laundry there. I asked what the starting compensation was. Do y'all want to guess? $7.87 an hour. Gross, not take home. So when we go to look, just as we're in competition with you for people. Governor Bryant, Philip Gunn, Tate Reeves have gotten the economy, and the President of the United States have gotten our economy to such a degree that we can't compete with you. At Parchman, for example, they need like 1,800 people. I think they have 749 people working there. You know, we can't compete with you. So when we go about the first part of this session and whatnot, I want to address to make sure that, first of all, you know me, I cut my budget every year you hired me for Secretary of State. I cut my budget, cut it last year. I turned back $1.5 million from my state budget last year. I watched the pennies. We're going to watch them again here. But we're not going to be penny wise and pound foolish about state employees anymore. We can't do that. You won't get what you need from state government if you call the Secretary of State's office and get somebody that's paid $7.87 an hour. So we are going to do that. Now, on the positive part, we're going to fund pre-K this year out of the Senate. Hopefully, we're working with the Senate. I'm term limited, so they're probably not going to vote for me. But we're planting the seeds. When we start about education, you start when they're 4 years old, and we have a seamless education community that then exits at the time you are qualified to do the job you want to do. We are not a bunch of different fiefdoms. So we will aggregate those down, starting with pre-K. Our teachers are woefully undercompensated. And worst, to you and to me, they're underrespected. You remember back in the old days when I did something wrong at school and I had to bring a note home to mom and dad, first thing they did after some amount of belting was to ask me what I had done wrong. Now, if we send a kid home, they want to know what the teacher did wrong. So we'll see that these teachers that we want to retain, particularly in critical shortage places, those teachers are going to need your respect. They're going to need you to tell them how much you appreciate what they're doing. So we have this workforce development. Jason and I and the speaker are heavily involved in that and will be involved in that. I anticipate you will see many new proposals coming from both the House and the Senate on increasing our workforce development. Only 25% of our children are getting a college degree. That's the second lowest in the country. We need more college degrees, but the other 75% need a good paying job. And to do that, they're going to have great skills. Those skills will now start to accumulate not just at a community college, they will start in the 10th and 11th and 12th grade. You will see us push the 13th year of college into our high schools in Mississippi. Now, the last part of this is so important. The state government, and I was in the private sector for many years, ran my own company, ran my own firm. State government cannot answer all of the calls. Every time we have a tornado, just to give you an example, I'll go to these tornado sites and whatnot, and you'll see First Baptist Church of somewhere up on the roof, Catholic Church of somewhere else, Pentecostals are serving food. You'll see all these people come from all over to help people that are in trouble. MEMA does its part, we do our part, but we can't do it all. So what I'm going to ask each one of you is to just do one thing for one of our kids. Just one. Get them to shadow you. You're important. You're a leader. You're successful. They're going to look up to you. They may not have anybody else to look up to. You may be the very first one. Get involved in your schools. Give them your equipment. Give them a summer job. Tell that teacher how much you appreciate them. Go talk to them. Speak at their seminars. Have them out by your place. Anything you can do to just do one thing. If each of us just does one thing, we'll improve Mississippi exponentially. So I would ask you and ask the MEC, who is the leaders of business in Mississippi. You're the ones that we look to for statistical information, to workforce. What do y'all need? How can we help? And we can only do so much. But as a group, we can do so much more if we just all do one more thing. So do one more thing, you'll feel better about yourself, and we'll feel better about our wonderful state. I am so looking forward to working with you in the future. They're going to take me upstairs here and put me in a bigger office. I don't get the bathroom, I don't think. Jason got. Dean Kirby is going to be an excellent asset to Mississippi. He is the senator's senator. We will name committee chairman on Friday morning, promptly at 10 o'clock. I and our staff have spent hundreds of hours looking at these committee chairmen. We look at them because of their abilities, which are very good. We've got a great group of young people coming, y'all. You're going to be really impressed with these people. Not only what their capabilities are, what their needs are, what they want to do, but what you need them to do. What does Mississippi need you to do? So you will see some that maybe are outside of what you might have thought, that person will be heading that committee. It's because, in my judgment, which you hired me to do, that's the best person Mississippi needs today. So, come on back after Friday. We're going to start work promptly on Friday morning. I'm so appreciative of all MEC does for us. And thank you so much for having me today. Y'all work hard. We're looking forward to having a very prosperous new year.
Speaker Gunn will be coming back, and we've got a long history with him, and he understands some of our major issues and is supportive. So we're very optimistic. We think it's a great opportunity, and we headed to the new session with a lot of hope.
Oh, MEC's always been fantastic. They're very supportive. They bring together the business leaders of the state. You can tell by the attendance at this function and the Hobnob event that they are a real force in Mississippi.
MEC is a business organization. It's open to anyone. The benefits are we are the network, we are the advocacy agency for businesses all across the state of Mississippi. And for more information, just go to mec.ms. That's mec.ms.